Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to our Municipal Council meeting. It is Tuesday, May 19th at 5:30 p.m. We're convened in the Provo Municipal Council chambers. The meeting is being broadcast live on Provo City Channel 17 and on channel17.provo.org, where it is also available for on-demand viewing.
Mr. Chair, we're experiencing a few audio technical issues with these microphones. So I don't know if you want to consider delaying the meeting until we resolve that, but we won't be able to record for our video broadcast anything until we resolve that issue. So we will coordinate a solution as fast as possible, but
We'll have them go ahead and continue working on the audio while we have, and we'll use this microphone up here for any public comment. The council requests that citizens help maintain the decorum of the meeting by silencing cell phones and other personal devices. And we'll begin with a roll call, starting with Mr. Jones.
Brian Jones.
Kay Van Buren.
Callie Hales.
Dave Sewell.
Gary Garrett.
Kim Santiago.
Al Miller.
Gary Winterton.
Parker.
Thank you. Our opening prayer and pledge are being offered tonight by members of Troop, is it 181? Troop 186, in the Grandview Northeast neighborhood. And appreciate your being here. Skylar Anderson will offer the invocation, followed by Moroni Kakoa, who will lead us in the pledge. So Skylar and Moroni, if you'd like to come up here to this microphone, and we'll just have you, Ryan, if you could point that microphone, or Brian, outward. Perfect. And Skylar will start with the prayer then, the invocation.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for all our many blessings, thankful that we could be here, and please bless that we can have a good meeting and that it can go efficiently and that we can have a good rest of the night and a good week. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
May the audience please rise for the pledge. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Moroni, and Skylar, thank you. We have 3 presentations tonight. We will actually move to, if you have an agenda, we're going to do the presentation that's listed third first. This is a presentation of the 2015 Legacy Award to Provo City by the Urban Design Utah Group, and that will be presented by Bill Pepperoni.
Urban Design Utah gave a Legacy Award for 2015 to the City of Provo for urban design improvements to Center Street. You're receiving a copy of that now. I'll just read a couple of the paragraphs in order to be sensitive to time. Provo Center Street is one of Utah's remarkable main streets. Over many decades, civic leaders, local businesses, public servants, and design professionals have worked in concert through an abundance of good moves to orchestrate a diverse and thriving center of commerce and culture in downtown. There's clear evidence of considerable public engagement in shaping this important public space. Design efforts have been accompanied by exceptional planning, economic development, and cultural initiatives. Provo has stayed ahead of planning trends with new form-based codes, strategic plans, and implementation tools. An active design review committee, Downtown Provo Business Alliance, and Arts Council have provided meaningful guidance, programs, amenities, and services. The Provo Vision 2030 and recent visioning for a new civic center to replace the antiquated City Hall with a mixed-use development hold great promise for the nurturing of Center Street's positive trends into the future. This was an unsolicited award we were given by the Awards Committee of Urban Design Utah. Urban Design Utah is jointly sponsored by the Utah chapters of the following organizations: the American Institute of Architects, the American Planning Association, the American Society of Landscape Architects, and the Congress for the New Urbanism. So apparently our efforts to Center Street have been noticed, and they're appreciated by these design professionals, and they saw fit to give us this award.
Thank you, Bill. In addition to yourself, who else might we recognize for their efforts? I know Mr. McGinn.
Certainly economic development, the redevelopment agency. One of the things they mentioned in the certificate is the tabernacle becoming a temple, and the convention center. The urban infill projects that we have taken place already, like 63 East and the Cowboy Partner project coming online. So those wouldn't have happened without economic development and redevelopment involvement.
Great, thank you. Congratulations to you and all those involved in this.
And can I also say, you won't say it, so New Skin.
Yes, they actually mentioned the New Skin building as a great addition to Center
Make
Street.
sure all the things that they've done for our Center Street.
A lot of good things going on downtown. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Next, we'll move to item 1. We're delighted to have Paul Dearden, our Center for the Arts Manager, the Covey Center for the Performing Arts, here tonight. We have opportunities on a monthly basis to learn about special performances, events, exhibits that are a part of our Covey Center. And so we'll turn the time over to Paul to introduce this item.
Thank you. It is working. A couple things that we wanted to bring before the council. The first thing, last month we showed our a cappella group Frequency down in Disneyland, and as such, we had something that came up. We'd like to invite everybody that can to watch Channel 13 News tomorrow between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. Big Buddha will be featuring the Covey Center vocal program and Frequency as the cool school. So we didn't know when we made it quite into the education field, but we're being recognized as the cool school. So we make you aware of that for tomorrow.
But Paul, you don't know when in that 4-hour stretch they might be featured.
It will be featured throughout the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So they just do a segment here, and then they go on to something else, and then they have another little segment, so if you're watching anywhere on Channel 13 between 5 and 9, you'll probably pick something up with Big Buddha.
Great.
Tonight we are featuring a play that we've got going on at the Covey Center right now called Nonsense, and we are actually in the last week of it. I've invited the director of Nonsense to come over and introduce the play a little bit, and we've got a performer here that will give us a little snippet of what you'll see if you can come and see Nonsense. The director is Robin Booth, and I'll turn it over to Robin.
Now, the Little Sisters of Hoboken are having a fundraiser next door at the Covey Theater. Now, some of you may not know what this little fundraiser is all about. You see, our cook, Sister Julia, child of God, made some vichyssoise soup, and nearly every one of our sisters died instantly of botulism. Well, we buried 48 of those sisters, but we don't have enough money for the last 4 dead sisters to bury them, so they're in the freezer. Well, about a week ago, I held tryouts for tonight's show, and I asked those sisters to prepare something that I thought that they would, do their very best, and I chose those sisters whom I thought were the very best, and one of them was Sister Amnesia. Well, her name is Amnesia because a crucifix had fallen on her head, and she's forgotten who she is. But she's a fantastic performer, and she's here tonight to perform for you. Sister Amnesia. Now, she's a little nervous. Well, actually, she's a big mess, is what she is.
Hello. Hi, Sister Mary. For a minute there, I thought I was going to remember my family. But I'm going to tell you a little story about me.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Sister Amnesia, and others who have come. We appreciate that presentation. Nonsense runs through Saturday of this week in the Covey Center, so be sure to get your tickets soon. It runs one more week. Thank you again. Finally, we have a presentation by the Utah Recreation and Parks Association for the Outstanding Aquatic Professional of the Year Award and Outstanding Citizen Advocate of the Year Award. We'd like to welcome those who are in attendance from the Utah Recreation and Parks Association: Kim Olson, the Executive Director; Dan Harrison, the President; Patty Hansen, the past President; and Kristen Riker, the President-elect. And this will be presented by Mr. Olson.
Well, great. It's a real pleasure for us to be here. Again, I'm Kim Olson. I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Recreation and Parks Association, and I'm here with Dan Harrison, our President, and Kristen Riker, our President-elect. The Utah Recreation Parks Association, we've been here before. We were here last year to recognize your outstanding recreation center. But just, again, a little bit about who we are. We are a professional organization. We have over 1,000 members here in Utah. We represent most of the park and recreation professionals throughout the state. We are very passionate about recreation. We believe that quality recreation and parks programs, facilities, and activities are very important in the life of our citizens, and they don't just happen. They need to be planned for. They need good financial help from people like you. And anyway, we as an association, what we try and provide our members is, first of all, education and training. We provide opportunities for networking, to do advocacy, to advocate for park and recreation causes. We enable them to form partnerships. We have professional certifications, and then we also do professional recognition. And that is one of the reasons we're here tonight. At our annual conference, which this year, by the way, was here in Provo, at your wonderful center, just kind of across the street here, we recognize excellence in our association. And we have some awards that were awarded then, but we want to re-award them here so you see what great people you have here in your city. So I'll turn the time over now to Dan Harrison, our president, and he will make the actual presentation of the award.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a BYU alum, so it's always good to be in Provo, right? The first award is the Outstanding Aquatics Professional of the Year. And I want to tell you a little bit about one of your employees here in Provo, and I know her personally and have been able to rub shoulders with her a little bit over the years. The winner for this award this year, and if you think about it, with 1,000 members in our professional organization, that's quite a recognition to have somebody from your city that's recognized in this way. But I want to tell you a little bit about Kathy. Kathy Schmitz brings excellent service and knowledge to the city of Provo in the state of Utah. Kathy is an exceptional supervisor for her staff. As a manager, Kathy shifts the paradigm of daily work into a commitment of public service and an attitude of excellence for those who work with her. Kathy develops her staff, and several of her employees have gone on to develop attributes that have qualified them for professional service in the aquatic industry throughout Utah and Nevada. Kathy is a trainer not only for her own staff in emergency disasters, first aid, and life-saving skills, but her personal mission is to support smaller seasonal pools in the surrounding cities of Utah. And so I'm also a part of a subsidiary or smaller organization, Central Utah Recreation and Parks Association, which Kathy's also a part of. And I get the opportunity to meet with her monthly, and I've had the opportunity to watch her interact with the other aquatics professionals. She's been instrumental in putting a group together of aquatics professionals here in Utah County. and helping them to meet regularly and to talk about some of the needs and concerns that they have, and helping to share some of the experience and knowledge that she has. So this award is very deserved. At this time, we'd like to have Kathy come forward, and we'd like to award that to her. Kathy? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the second award. This is somewhat of a unique award in that normally we recognize, or most of the awards that we recognize individuals for employees that are within the realm of parks and recreation. This is for a volunteer in the field, and so you guys are lucky to have this individual in your community. In fact, while I was shaking his hand when we first got here, I asked him if he wanted to move out into Lehigh, where I'm the recreation director. He declined, so I think he's here to stay for a while. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about Ray Beckham. Ray is the perfect example of a selfless citizen working to make his community better. His skills in fundraising are matched only by his personal generosity in creating successes for Provo. Every community should be blessed with the presence of a Ray Beckham among their citizens. It's my understanding that Ray was involved with the rec center that you guys have built, and that he helped in that process and served on a committee to try and help gain some support for that facility to be here. And it's also my understanding that he has been very influential and instrumental in helping Provo City to raise some money for parks and recreation here, and help put together a brochure, and has met with individuals as a part of a group that has helped to fundraise over $1 million for Provo City. So that's pretty impressive. We don't see that very often. So we'd like to recognize Ray at this time. Ray, if you could come forward.
I hope the council realizes and the community realizes what a great professional staff you have in the Provo Parks and Recreation Department. They've been a pleasure to work with. They're professional in every way. They know where they're going, and they're trying hard to get there. So I just take my hat off to them. One thing he didn't mention is that with the Rotary Club, we have placed during the past 2 years 40 park benches throughout the city, and we're planning on having 20 more this year in 2015. And an unusual part of that is that right next to every one of these benches is a historical plaque that tells an important event in the history of our city. And the nice thing about these plaques is that not only do they tell a story about Provo's history, but every few years they can be easily moved around the city so that people who go to one park will be able to see historical events that happen elsewhere in the city. And so it's just an honor to represent the city of Provo and in this wonderful department of Parks and Recreation. And I wish you good luck in talking more about the rap tax coming up.
Maybe just one last comment, just that as professionals in URPA, we have the opportunity to travel around the state and meet some of the different professionals, and having that opportunity is unique to us, and you guys get to know who you have here in Provo, and I'm sure you recognize the good people that you have, but let me tell you from my experience that they are very professional, and they do a great job, and so it's an honor to be here to recognize some of them today, and let you know that all of your folks here in Provo do a very, very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. We appreciate your presentation and your acknowledging some of our great citizens this way. Thank you also, Mr. Olson and Ms. Riker. Ms. Santiago?
I just want to give a shout out to my neighbor, Ray Beckham, and I'm happy that he couldn't convince him to leave Provo, because he and Jeanette, his wife, work tirelessly to benefit our community, and they're an asset to our neighborhood and to our community, and we really appreciate the hard work that they do to make our city great. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Santiago. And I add my congratulations to Kathy and to Ray both for your recognition and awards tonight. Thank you for all you do for us. We'll now begin the public comment part of our council meeting. This time has been set aside for any person in attendance to comment on matters that do not appear on tonight's official agenda. Should you wish to make a comment at the podium, please speak into the microphone and begin by stating your name and city of residence. Should you not wish to speak, but instead to have your statement read aloud by the recorder, please provide her with a copy of that statement. Those who wish to speak should do so courteously and briefly. Please be aware that the council and administration will not take any formal action on matters that arise during public comment, but we may respond informally as appropriate. Also, everyone, please be aware of additional means for addressing the council and administration directly regarding matters of concern, such as by email, telephone, social media, all of which are listed on the Provo City website, provo.org. Those who wish to make comments are invited to approach the microphone at this time.
Hello, my name is John Fenley. I'm a resident of Provo and founder of a nonprofit makerspace here in Provo called ProVolt. Recently, we found that the city was getting rid of a building down in South Provo, 65,000 square foot old security center. And we saw the potential of this building, and the city put it out for bids. We submitted a proposal, and I would really encourage the city council to consider the proposal that we put out there. I have copies here if anybody would like to see the proposal we put in. I think it would be a tragedy to see this building be destroyed when it could be put to a good use that would benefit the city. Thank you.
You're welcome to give those copies to Mr. Taylor, our executive director, and he will see that members of the council receive them. Thank you for your comments tonight.
This is public comment?
It is public comment. There's a handheld microphone.
Fantastic. Good to be back, Provo. You got the beautiful hills.
There's a handheld microphone right there at the podium. The one, that one, yes.
I'm a rock star. Hey, great to be here. You've got the photos in front of you of...
remind us of your name and city of residence.
Craig Allen Sheets, and I'm from Orange County, California. I was born in Fullerton.
Thank you.
And I spoke here several times. I'm sure a few of you have seen me. What you got here in front of you is, well, the government has forced out all the good farmers, and they had a reason for it, and there it is. You don't put nuclear devices that don't launch in our defense. I think we got a little bit of a civil war problem here with the government. You know, government hasn't been going in the right direction lately. As well, I'd like to bring up, as far as the government goes, Vulcan. I don't know if Gary there knows what a Vulcan is, but I'm going to go straight up with federal attorneys, body fluids, the best I can do through the public. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries, but Gary, Vulcans are, they got FEMA death camps coming into play. So you might want to Google FEMA death camps for me. I'd appreciate that, Gary. As well, beyond nuclear devices in all the silos, the worst part is they're in the tanks of gasoline, oil. I think the plan is to destroy water. I don't know if you noticed, but you guys are pretty lucky here to have rain. We're not having any rain in California. That's where I'm from. We're having none. And our farms are falling apart. And we need food to live, water. Those are the two elements that we basically need. Minerals are important as well. That's where I come in for the ERA, which is English Reich above. I don't know if anybody believes in English kings, but I got them on my back of my coat right now. As well, FCC antennas in the hills. You got on the second page there meth labs, and those are our safety boundaries for women and children in case we come into war. Why don't we just give them the keys? You got antennas over them. Why don't we give them the keys to the lock? We'll throw a little meth party. There's meth labs in there. It's one of the worst epidemics, Mayor. Meth is pretty mad. It's mad stuff. You know, I don't know if you know what it does, but I've talked to the fire department, paramedics, and it is the highest suicide rate of drugs on the street, methamphetamine. What's it doing in our safety bunkers in the hills? I don't get it. These little white men in suits with masks, you know? I mean, I don't know, Mayor. I don't think you want it in your town, do you? Then we got England trucking. After the submarines bring in cocaine, I don't think our taxpayers have, you know, paid for these submarines to go over to South America to bring in cocaine. I'm anti-drug, 100%. I've been down that road. It's not a good road. So, you know, I'm trying to help out the kids here, and whatever's legit. I mean, we got authentic, and then we got duplicated Vulcan. So Vulcans, I'm warning you, you got about a month. And I do have the right to make a citizen's arrest with public and do some body checks. I don't think your blood type's going to come up all that great. So let's get rid of those FEMA death camps, Vulcan. Have a nice night, Gary.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. Oh, I'd like to say happy birthday, Dad. Guy's going to be 80. You think I'm bad? You want to meet this guy?
Thank you.
Take care.
Is there any other public comment? If not, we'll close public comment and move to the first item of business on our agenda tonight, which is a resolution to place approximately 0.14 acres of real property generally located at 1120 South State Street on the city's surplus property list and authorizing the mayor to sell the property. This item will be presented by Tara Riddle. Matt, did you have a handheld microphone there, Tara?
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll see if it'll go low enough. Good evening. I don't know if we have a map to show, hopefully. If not, it should have been part of the resolution with your attachments. So just to give a little bit of history on this property, 5 years ago, Cascade Collision purchased the property just south of 1120 South on State Street. And when they came in with their development plans, the engineering department worked with them to acquire a portion of the north part of their parcel to realign 1120 South so that it matches the alignment of 1140 South, which is across the street. When they changed that alignment and the road was developed, it left a remnant piece of property that the property owner to the north has been conveniently using for a parking lot. They have approached us about actually acquiring the property, where they would then go ahead and develop it as officially part of their parking lots. They would do the asphalting and make it part of their overall development. So we have been working with the property owner and have negotiated a sales price of $23,500. Keeping in mind that this property is encumbered by utility easements. When the road was realigned, we decided to not move the easements. We would leave all of the utilities in their original place and not incur the cost of actually moving them southward. So the sales price is reflective of property that's encumbered with easements. Additionally, the property owner, well, the potential buyer has asked that we discount the property by $1,700, which would give them, we're calling it an allowance, but some money so that they can do the actual landscaping improvements to the 2 parking strips that are located just to the south of the property. So the overall sales price would be $21,800. It's proposed that this money would then be put into the revenue account for engineering, into their general 421 fund, which would repay the amount that was used to buy the road for 1120 from Cascade Collision. So at this time, we're just asking the council to approve the resolution to put the property on the surplus property list and then authorize the mayor to sell the property.
Thank you, Ms. Riddle. Any questions? Ms. Santiago?
Is it built into the agreement somehow that we can access the utilities?
Yes.
There, I didn't hear you mention
We'll be
that.
retaining all of the easements, so we'll have all of the accesses. Also in the agreement, we'll have it that they have to do all of the improvements within 90 days of the closing, just to ensure that that actually happens.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Winterton?
No question, but thank you for getting this done. I know that this has been a long time coming on this piece, and there's been some concerns and questions, and I appreciate your efforts in getting this taken care of.
Would anyone care to make a motion? Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the resolution to place approximately 0.14 acre of real property generally located at 1120 South State Street on the surplus property list and authorizing the mayor to sell the property.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there a second? Mr. Winterton? Those in favor? That passes unanimously then. Thank you. Thanks again, Ms. Riddle. Next, we have a presentation by one of our planners, Aaron Ardmore. This is relating to an ordinance amending various sections of the Provo City Code that are listed here on the agenda and on the screen to clarify language regarding permitted uses and prior created lots. This has citywide impact. Mr. Ardmore.
The ordinance amendments before you tonight are from the LDR, MDR, HDR, CMU, and the ITOD zones. All of these zones have recently been adopted by the council within the last 6 years. Staff has recently found a couple items that we'd like to clarify in these zones related to allowed density and prior created lots. The language proposed to you will help clarify the intent of the zone to redevelop land within these areas of the city rather than to allow existing dwellings to add units. We propose these amendments to you for adoption and try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Ardmore? Thank you, Aaron. As these Planning Commission recommendations have citywide impact, we'd like to invite any neighborhood chairs who might be present to speak to this, or to offer input. If not, we'll bring the item back to the council for discussion. Ms. Santiago?
Makes sense to me to amend it to get the desired result that we want in this zone. So I'm in favor of the amendment.
Thank you. Any other?
I'd say to avoid unintended consequences of having homes partitioned off and instead of getting new dwellings. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the ordinance as written.
Thank you, Mr. Winterton. Is there a second? Ms. Santiago, thank you. Those in favor? And that vote is unanimous. Thank you. Our final item is an ordinance amending Provo City Code Section 14.34.350, recreational vehicle storage, including boats, trailers, and recreational vehicles, and towing impound yards, striking language requiring such uses to be located on an arterial or collector street. This will also be presented by Mr. Ardmore.
So this ordinance amendment came about due to a couple applications that came into the city for a conditional use permit. The first condition in that section 1434.350 was to locate the impound yard on a collector arterial road. This was, in staff's view, overly restrictive. In these areas where impound yards are allowed, there are 4 zones within the city that they're allowed. there's sufficient restrictions in those zones and the remaining conditions, staff felt that it would be appropriate to remove that first condition to allow additional areas of the city to be developed into towing and impound yards.
Questions for Mr. Ardmore? Ms. Santiago?
It's not really a question, but for the public's benefit, could you explain on the map where the company is moving to, and there are two companies you said. Could you explain where both companies are going to be moving, relocating to?
We have to. So the first one formerly was on the corner of 1720 North and Riverside Avenue on the southwest corner. See on the map there of that intersection. So they were located off of a collector of 1720 North. They have since applied to move down to just, I don't have a pointer, but just, if you go to the previous slide, there you go. Just at the bend there on the east side of Riverside Avenue, just north of the storage lots. East there. So that section of Riverside Avenue is not a collector. So to be able to locate their business there, moving just down the street, this amendment would help them. And the second location, slide, is right there on Industrial Parkway, down by Provo City's water treatment facility. Again, it's just on the bend on the east side of the road there on that developed lot. They would be locating on the south portion of that lot, south of the building you can see there. Again, both of these, there's no nearby residential that would be adversely impacted by this ordinance amendment by allowing positive development to occur at these sites.
And there are no other zones of this type that where it could possibly be providing access on a residential road, or where it abuts to a residential road.
So staff reviewed the 4 zones that permit impound yard throughout the city. There are only 2 locations that were nearby residential facilities or residential zones. One was in the Franklin zone, where we can see in the near future changing that CM to a low-density residential zone. So that would relieve that concern. The other is in Pig Zone. That's down in Spring Creek neighborhood, where they have alternative accesses where they wouldn't need to drive through the residential neighborhood adjacent to that Pig Zone.
So they wouldn't need to, but could they if they wanted to, or is there some limitations within the?
I imagine if the tow truck could essentially drive past the residential neighborhood, but the closest available site for anybody to locate there, it would be rather inconvenient. So the Pig Zone just adjacent to that residential neighborhood is owned by a construction firm that's already developed most of the site.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ardmore. Where this proposed ordinance also has citywide impact, we invite any neighborhood chairs who are present to speak to this item or add input. If not, we'll bring the item back to the council for discussion or for a motion.
Do we have a picture of that other PIC zone? Could we look at that as well? Is there a way to Google map that one?
I didn't attach a picture of that area of the city, but maybe if we get on the map from Spring Creek neighborhood, South State.
And Mr. Taylor, while they're looking that up, don't we normally dim that light above the screen so we can better see the images? Thank you.
So the area there, you see Valley Vista Way, onto the Vista Parkway. That general area is the PIC zone that's still undeveloped, whereas impound yard could locate in the future. We felt that that was far enough from the residential to the north that it wouldn't be a concern.
Other questions or comments or discussion or a motion? Mr. Winterton?
I'll make the motion then that we approve the ordinance as written again.
Thank you, Mr. Winterton. Is there a second? Mr. Van Buren, thank you. Those in favor? That item passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks again, Aaron. I'll now call for a motion to adjourn our meeting this evening. Mr. Sewell, a second. Ms. Hales, thank you. Those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.